I used to struggle to connect with people growing up. I was being bullied for that because I didn't quite, no matter where I go today, the principles I learned in wrestling, I can apply it anywhere. So I was like, you know what? I want to try to make it to the Olympics. What if I manifest this and I write everything I want to do into a book? I just stick to training. There's like apparently around 4,400 plus wrestlers in Dagestan alone. Wrestling is one of those sports where the moment you do get cocky, there's always someone around the corner that can beat you. Australia is behind a lot of these countries.
Because discipline is something that I believe stays when motivation disappears. Because
Those tough matches is where you're going to gain the most experience from. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. Never give up. People from Dagestan are very tough.
what do you think stands out more in Khabib? Is it technique, discipline, or do you think is it mindset?
He knows how to position his body through good technique.
I thought he would just tap in because he was locked in, but he didn't. He said that there was no way I was going to tap out in front of my father.
A lot of athletes take different approaches in terms of emotional control. The black belt is the white belt that never gave up.
What does it take really to become a champion? Not just physically, but mentally. Because everyone sees the athlete on the mat. Everyone sees the competition, the medals, the performance. But very few people see the early mornings, the injuries, the pressure, the losses, the self-doubt, and the discipline it takes to keep showing up when no one is watching. Today on Raw Real Podcast, I'm sitting down with Justin Holland, an Australian wrestler, coach, and someone who has lived the reality of high performance sport. This conversation is not about just wrestling. It's about mindset, failure, discipline, identity, and building success from the ground up. Justin, welcome to the Raw Real Podcast.
What a powerful introduction. I love it.
Thank you so much. We had to do it because obviously you come up from that background, so we had to make something powerful. Now, I'm really excited to have you here, Justin, to be honest, because I feel your journey is powerful because you're not just someone that talks about discipline, but you've lived it. You've competed, you've trained, coached, built yourself through the sport, and now you're helping others understand performance and success. So this is something I'm really excited about. But before we go deep, I want to start with something simple. When you look back at your life, do you reckon wrestling chose you or you chose wrestling?
That's a good question. And I would say wrestling found me because growing up, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and I had a speech impairment.
Right.
So I used to struggle to connect with people growing up.
Mm.
And I was being bullied for that because I didn't quite fit in. And I found I was trying to get myself into different activities, trying to find ways to connect with people, but it wasn't working.
Mm.
It was until I found wrestling
Right.
is what helped me evolve as a person and helped me build strong discipline in everything I did in my life, where it helped me better to be a good student at school, helped me to become a better wrestler, helped me to speak better, and helped me in different avenues of my life where no matter where I go today,
Mm.
the principles I learned in wrestling, I can apply it anywhere.
Oh, that's interesting. I guess can we say that wrestling gave you a sort of platform to express yourself in a better way?
Absolutely.
Interesting. So, Justin, before we talk about wrestling and your achievements and different sort of stuff, who was Justin Holland before the wrestling?
So I was a kid who had a big imagination
Right.
growing up. And obviously, I found it hard to connect with people at the time before I started wrestling. But I always had a fascination of movies.
Right.
So I always used to look up to these heroic characters like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. And I used to imagine being them.
Right.
So I used to dress up like them. I used to make my own movies in my head and just used to play them out. And from there, I was just trying to figure out myself as a person. And it was until I stumbled across wrestling through my cousins,
Right.
where they were interested in WWE.
Okay. Interesting. A lot of kids back in that era were interested in WWE.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And he brought in the wrestling ring over with the wrestling toys, and we just started playing with it. I took a huge fascination into it. So what happened there, every Friday night, we used to wrestle in the hallway.
Mm.
And we used to run each other into the walls, and my grandma used to be angry
Right.
telling us to settle down.
Okay.
But I knew I had to figure out where should I start wrestling.
Hmm.
So at the time, I don't know if you know of AOL,
Yeah, I do. I
dial-up
do. Yeah,
internet.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually went on to AOL, dial-up internet, and it took me like 15 minutes to find a place.
Right.
And I ended up starting in Cabramatta PCYC.
Hmm.
But I actually thought it was professional wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually rocked up to my first session
Hmm.
dressed like the Undertaker.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the coach looked at me strange. It's like, this is not like professional wrestling. This is real wrestling.
Okay.
So I did my first session in black jeans, a black singlet, chain, and gloves, exactly like the Undertaker. But obviously took my gloves and chains off,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just fell in love with it and done
Did
it
you
ever
have a hat
since.
on too?
No, I wore a bandana.
Nice, nice, nice. So you were in that era of Undertaker when he used to come up on a bike with the bandana on.
Yes, the
Interesting.
American badass.
Nice, interesting. I was quite a big fan of Undertaker too. My favorite was The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I was a lot of into WWE too. But Justin, tell me this: were you always sort of someone that you felt that you would end up growing being a wrestler, or was it something you just started off as a passion?
It obviously started off as a passion, but I remember, as far as I remember, I think of Kurt Angle
Right,
because I remember he was an Olympic
Olympic
champion
champion. Yeah.
and he was also a world champion a year
Mm,
before that. So I was like, you know what? I want to try to make the Olympics.
mm,
So I started training and I just stayed consistent
right.
until I discovered like Commonwealth Games and all these
Mm,
other like competitions that I can participate in.
right.
And I have to really thank my dad for that because at the time I was just training wrestling for a year when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew because he was a professional coach in Muay Thai.
Okay.
And he knew the only way I would actually get better
Mm-hmm.
if I competed.
Right.
So I competed my first competition, ended up winning it, and I got the bug even more.
Okay.
And it was crazy. The time I hit like 13, 14, I already won a couple of national titles under
Oh, that's
me.
nice.
I've medaled in international competitions. And I was like, you know what? I stumbled on something called The Secret. And I was like, what if I manifest this and I write everything I want to do into
Mm,
a book and I just stick to training?
okay.
I try not to miss any training sessions unless obviously I had an infection or if I was sick.
Mm,
So that's exactly what I did. And like the time 2010 happened, I actually made the Commonwealth Games when I
mm-hmm.
was the age of 17.
Okay. That's
So
interesting.
yeah, I was like the youngest on the team and I was just dedicated to the sport. And I was the only person in freestyle wrestling that was from New South Wales. Everyone else was from Victoria, which was the dominant state at the time
Okay. In terms of wrestling.
in terms of
Okay.
wrestling.
Interesting. That is nice. Uh, Justin, because we're speaking about wrestling, especially if I talk about Australia, I personally believe Australia is not that big in terms of wrestling because it's still growing up, it's still evolving. So, did you feel that you had certain challenges in pursuing wrestling? Because obviously, the country is not big in terms of wrestling because you see NRL, you see probably AFL, and you would see cricket or other sports. But wrestling, I don't think it's still quite big in Australia. So, how did you come up with those sort of challenges?
It's something that I struggled with when at a younger age,
Mm-hmm.
especially wrestling being a lot smaller
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, a teen, and early adult.
Yeah.
Back then, we used to only have 150 wrestlers
Okay.
in Australia alone. So I could only get good to a certain extent in Australia.
Mm.
Hence why myself, my cousin, and all the elite cadet wrestlers, which is the under 17-year-old wrestlers at the
Yeah.
time, had to travel overseas.
Right.
So we spent some time in Europe. My cousin and I spent some time, even my sister spent time in Canada.
Okay.
So we lived there for a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and we tried to learn as much as we can when we were overseas.
Right.
But in today's world, especially with MMA
Mm.
and BJJ, it's promoted wrestling in a different light where you see people like Khabib, Islam, and in BJJ you had Nicky Rod, who
Mm.
was a guy who was a average wrestler in America, and he
Mm.
went into the BJJ circuit and
Yeah.
he dominated the
Mm.
ADCC at a blue belt,
Yeah.
slaying all the black belts, and they
Okay.
called him the Black Belt Slayer.
Interesting.
And in that like in terms of discipline, like in BJJ, they started looking for wrestling coaches,
Right.
and a lot of them end up starting to do wrestling now.
Okay.
So it's growing in both BJJ, but also in MMA.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I feel in the past 2 years,
Right.
wrestling is taking massive growth compared
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
what it was 3 to 5 years ago.
Absolutely. I do see MMA also hosting events in Perth, coming to Australia, and also Volkanovski being part of
Yes.
MMA. I guess that's also given a lot of, I guess, a lot of youngsters want to get into MMA, wrestling, different sort of sports because I guess it's growing quite rapidly now in Australia with a lot of wrestlers coming up and doing stuff. But since you've spoken about few wrestlers like Khabib, Islam, this is something that I always wanted to know, and this is something I never got a chance to ask any wrestler or any coach. What is it that makes these guys different? Because these guys are from Russia. Uh, these guys train differently. What do you think makes them so different and so different from others, basically?
That's a very good question. And when you look at Russia itself, like especially Dagestan or
Mm-hmm.
Chechnya,
Mm-hmm.
they're known for their wrestling,
Right.
right? There's like apparently around 4,400 plus wrestlers in Dagestan alone.
Right.
And you have a wrestling club in every street filled with
Mm.
hundreds of wrestlers,
Right.
right? And over 800 coaches. And you have a lot of people trying to fight to put bread on the table.
Mm.
For Australia and a lot of westernized countries, it's more like a hobby here,
Right.
but there it's a way of life. It's a way of providing for their
Mm.
family.
Right.
It's how they get paid over
Mm.
there. So from there, they actually have to work
Mm.
to become better, to get paid more, and they have to try to work their way up to be able to compete at the absolute best. And between every match in, let's say Russian nationals or even states, there's
Mm.
only 1 or 2 points differences between each athlete.
Right.
And obviously you have the top level guy. It's like anyone, even the top 5 to 10 in Russia in each weight division could
Yeah.
be world champion.
Because there's small difference between each athletes because they're so good.
They're so good.
Yeah.
And they're just different breeds of people. Like they're like professional gymnasts. They can
Mm.
lift heavy. They're overall great athletes.
Right.
And they just, the way they maneuver, the way they're able to perform technique and how they scramble,
Mm.
it's just on another level in terms of the way they apply the pressure, their technical ability to be able to perform techniques from every
Yeah.
single position.
Right.
You can really tell with, let's say, Islam, Khabib, or even Chimaev, for
Yeah.
example.
Absolutely. I
They're
was about
really
to just say that
dominating.
name.
And Chimaev recently won his match in the RAF
Yeah.
by
I saw that.
pinfall.
Yeah. saw
So,
that.
like, that's showing Chechen at its finest, where that's the home of one of the best wrestlers to ever exist, CTF.
Right. I just want to know this because we are speaking about the Russian fighters. I just want to know this because a lot of people have this opinion. Russian fighters, they win a lot of championships. They're quite good, but people call their style of fighting a bit boring because they're known for the grappling skills, but not kind of good at wrestling. What's your take on that?
I personally believe it comes down to your knowledge of the sport
Right.
when it comes to like striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. If you are looking as just a fan and you haven't done any of that,
Right.
it can be quite boring.
Mm.
But if you are heavily involved in the sport,
Right.
doing it yourself,
Mm.
you understand exactly what's happening, all the
True.
techniques that is being performed in that time.
Right.
Where if you see an average guy, they just see two people hugging
Right.
and they don't really know what's
But there's
going
a lot
on.
going on out there, which normal
Exactly.
person doesn't understand.
Exactly.
Right. Interesting. Now, this is something I want to ask you. Wrestling is one of the sports where you cannot hide in general. And there are no excuses on the mat. It's just you, your preparation, and your opponent, right? So, is this some sort of preparation that you go through before entering a match, or is it just more sort of going in with the thought process that, stay calm in every situation and just go with the flow? What's your preparation going into a match like?
It all comes down to like first how you prep during training.
Hmm.
And if you have good preparation throughout your training, you have great coaches, you have great training partners that can help you evolve and help to get the best out of you at training,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to competition time, you come in with a lot more confidence,
Right.
right? But everyone has their own rituals to be able to get warmed up and prepared for a fight or a match.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I worked with a guy who was a sports psychologist
Right.
who helped me a lot in that area of warming up and preparing for an actual match.
Mm.
Where usually when I go into a match, I would go in and actually focus on starting the day nice and calm, having breakfast like per usual.
Yeah.
I listen to more relaxing music
Mm-hmm.
if it's more instrumental,
Mm-hmm.
or even just like a violin, jazz, something that can keep me cool.
Cool. Yeah.
And just speaking to my friends or family, like there's no competition in the day, just keep my mind off it. And then when it comes to getting to the venue, it's when I start like changing the style of music I'm listening to. If it's
Mm-hmm.
like R&B, getting myself into a certain rhythm of
Yeah.
things.
Just getting into the zone, what coming into work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then from there, it's just getting yourself ready when you get there, warming up. And then from there, even when I am about to go on, I start to listen to more like rap or like heavy metal type of music
Mm-hmm.
to really get myself in that zone that I want to go there and I want to go and win.
Right.
But usually I would also wrestle right before my first match
Mm-hmm.
so I can get that jitters out of the way.
Right.
So when I step on the mat, I actually feel confident to be able to wrestle without my lungs breaking out in terms of me gassing,
Mm-hmm.
and just being able to focus on one thing at a time and
Right.
being able to figure out my opponent in the first 30 seconds and
Mm-hmm.
trying to come up from a game plan from there.
Right. One thing, because you said about the gassing and the breathing sort of technique, a lot of people speak about, which I guess the normal people wouldn't be aware
Yeah.
of. I guess obviously as a wrestler, your preparation would be different for each different opponent, because depending on what's the strength of the opponent or what's the weakness of the opponent. But tell me about something about this breathing technique, which a lot of people talk about in wrestling.
All right. So when you breathe, what I've learned through personal development and also the sports psychologist that I used to see,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people tend to breathe wrong where they breathe from their chest,
Right.
but it's learning how to breathe through your diaphragm, through
Okay.
your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And usually taking slow, deep breaths is a good way to calm down like your heart rate.
Mm.
So you can be more focused and you can be more present to the moment.
Mm.
Because obviously it's natural for everyone to be nervous on the day,
Right.
right? When it comes to competition. But what divides the person from who is nervous to someone who is more calm and collected is usually the way they breathe
Mm-hmm.
and being able to put themselves in that calm state.
Right.
So they're composed when they're out there, when they're wrestling.
Nice. This is one another thing, because you're speaking about the calm and composed stuff. Are you someone that prefers someone that goes all in aggressive into the ring, or someone that knows how to stay calm under pressure in different situations in the ring?
It truly depends on the style
Right.
of wrestler, right? Some wrestlers wrestle better when they're more aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
in your face, similar to an American style wrestler.
Right.
They try to break their opponent through that aggression
Right.
and make them crumble, so it makes it easier for them to beat their opponent either by pinfall or tech fall.
Mm.
Otherwise, a Russian or even like some Iranians come in more strong, but Russians come in more technical, composed, relaxed, and when you're moving around with them, it's like they're like an elastic band.
Right.
But when it comes to the time when they're going to explode,
Right.
their muscles just trigger at once. They explode
Mm.
into the technique.
Right.
But that comes through being able to be more composed and relaxed and seeing the opportunities. Because I like to wrestle more composed because you can feel things a lot better. The way the muscles are twitching into right before they execute a technique, or you can really feel the direction you're going to need to turn if the person's going to attack, so you can counter them, or how you're going to score off your opponent because they might be stepping heavier on their left foot or their right foot, or when you snap them down, which is like hitting their head and arm down, and they're coming up in a reactive way, makes it easier for you to shoot.
Right.
You tend to notice a lot more when you're composed.
Interesting. That's quite interesting briefing about this particular thing. Uh, Justin, one thing is something that I was curious to know about this. I've seen a lot of wrestlers. This is the first time I'm just talking to someone in person. I'm always curious about this. Wanted to know with the ears of the wrestlers, they do get to get quite bruised and to get a bit of shape and a bit of flesh on top. Is it something that causes problems for the wrestlers, or is it something that you guys get used to it?
Well, I think the only problem it may cause it's the end of your modeling career.
Right. And also the earphones?
The earphones, yeah, some wrestlers, for me, it's not the problem.
Yeah.
Like for other wrestlers, their ear is actually closed up.
Hmm.
But for that, we usually, I know wrestlers have this weird, funny analogy
Hmm.
where when you have cauliflower ears, it's called like a badge of honor.
Hmm.
It's like symbolizing that you're a good wrestler.
Right.
Or like let's say in India, Iran, you're known as like a Padwan.
Okay.
Yeah. Or
Makes sense.
Palawani.
Balwani, yeah.
Yeah. You're known as a Palawani. So it symbolizes you're a professional at wrestling. But it does affect some people's hearing, and it does affect the ability for some people to put on headphones.
Mm.
Hence why some guys wear like those thick headphones
Right.
to make it easier. But personally, for me, I never had any issues with my cauliflower ears, and I wear them proudly because usually for wrestlers that are out there listening to this podcast,
Mm.
they would understand like the benefits that come from it as well. Like if we were in India, if we were in Iran, or a few of the other countries, they actually look after the wrestlers,
Right.
give
Yeah.
discounts, they take them around, and wrestlers in general have a different type of attitude to most people. It's almost like kind of like it's a religion in a way
Right.
where wrestling helps keeps us humble.
Because one thing I feel that a lot of people have this misconception, since you've said about the humble thing, is a lot of people think looking them on screen, they seem to be aggressive, they seem to be quite fiery, ferocious, and all that stuff. But when you just see them off screen, they have a completely different side. So I believe that what you're saying is something that I've seen. I follow a lot of documentaries which are like sort of shot when they're not wrestling, when they're preparing for stuff, all the back end stuff, whatever is going on. And it shows, I guess, a real character of the athletes to how they are in normal life and all that stuff. So I guess it just adds up to what you're saying.
No, for sure. And it's interesting too. Wrestling is one of those sports where the moment you do get cocky,
Mm-hmm.
there's always someone around the corner that can beat you
Absolutely.
and humble you and put that wrestler in their place
Right.
in order to change their attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's always good to stay humble and be nice to everyone, because I remember this coach once said to me, if you are nice to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
everyone is willing to help you.
Right. Interesting. That's a good thought process, because I guess wrestling is also a lot about a team sport, right? Because if you want to prepare yourself for that particular match for any particular opponent, I guess there's a lot of people involved in preparing you up for that particular match, because you need help from different perspectives. Like you said about your psychologist, you might need your sparring partner, you might need your coach to help you out. So it's always better. A lot of people think that wrestling is all about just a single person going into the match, just fighting all by himself. But I guess there's a lot of prep that goes on behind the scenes, where there's a lot of team involved.
That's a very interesting point, and you're absolutely right when it comes to saying that, where when you step on the mat,
Mm-hmm.
it is an individual stepping
Right.
on there and competing. But in an overall sense, you are a team working together in order to get there.
Absolutely.
And a lot of you are on there for the same goal of being able to compete and get the best outcome.
Mm.
But you also have certain other people in the gym that also do it as a hobby. And wrestling is one of those places, or even like in a general gym in wrestling that does wrestling, you can see a CEO or a person who is a garbage collector working
Mm.
together.
Right.
and you see a lot of humility within the sport.
Right.
And we all pieces of the puzzle
Mm.
that we're trying to put together,
Right.
where the coach being that guide,
Mm-hmm.
and you are the hero of your own story.
Right.
And you have to figure out how you can get better in every single session
Mm-hmm.
in the powerful techniques that you already have,
Mm-hmm.
how you can double down on it, how can you overcome your weaknesses.
Right.
And that's a powerful thing about having the right training partners, where there's this thing that I like to call the 90% principle,
Mm-hmm.
where you're training with people that are 30% of the people are the people on the same level as you.
Okay.
We have those tough matches.
Right.
And then you have 30%
Mm-hmm.
that are below you, where you can practice your technique
Right.
and try to put new strategies into practice.
Okay.
So when you go to having those tough matches, you can utilize it
What do you
in those tough
practice?
matches.
Interesting.
And then the last 30% is the people that are better than you,
Okay.
that can beat you and humble you, but also you can learn a lot from them through the way they wrestle.
Okay.
And you can take that stuff that you learned through wrestling that person that was a lot better than you
Mm-hmm.
into your own game
Okay.
to help you
Interesting.
evolve.
That is nice, interesting, very good perspective, and a lot of detailed information about the whole things that go in the background. One thing related to that I wanted to know from you is we do see a lot of videos of the wrestlers doing their practice with their sparring partners and all that stuff. How do people make sure that they don't get injured during this practice matches? Because it's quite important for them to remain fresh for the match, going without any sort of injury. Sometimes we do see some of them back out of the matches because they've got some injury in the practice or while cutting down the weight or different sort of scenarios. But how do you make sure that you avoid injuries in the sparring and the practice?
There's two ways to go about it. One is usually going with a professional athlete that
Mhm.
knows how to take care of you
Yeah.
when you wrestle. Obviously, you're both going to be training hard, wrestling hard, but you can tell the wrestler is always taking care of you, even though you're trying to get the edge over each other during that
Mm.
match.
Yeah.
There's no injuries involved. But you have to watch out for two things to avoid injury. One, going with someone who is new that doesn't know what they're doing,
Right.
because one wrong movement can injure the wrestler.
Yeah.
And the second is be careful of those wrestlers that are egotistical,
Okay.
where they'll do whatever it takes to win, even if it's only training.
Right.
They will cheat, they'll pull on your legs, they'll poke your eyes, pull your hair, or do whatever it takes to even to the point where it's going to injure you.
Right.
So if you can avoid training with those two athletes or
Mhm.
style of athletes, you should be fine. And obviously, like for the beginner, they're going to be working around with people around the same level as them. But from time to time, if the wrestler isn't competing,
Mm-hmm.
can train with them as well and help
Right.
them evolve in their game. But usually, right before competition, it's best to train with professionals that you know that are going to take care of you
Mm-hmm.
and only going to add value into your game going into
Absolutely. Yeah.
competition.
And also, I guess that's the reason most of the wrestlers do train with their known sparring partners rather than bringing with any, because they have a set of team they know very well. They have a group of people they've been training with regularly and they spar among themselves unless they know someone that they can bring into the camp, right?
Exactly that. You know they're gonna take care of you
Mm.
and they're only gonna add value into your training, even if they're like, let's say, a better athlete than you, or they are able to mimic a certain style of like wrestler that you're trying to beat.
Right.
If that wrestler is more explosive, more technical, fast, or is more well rounded, if you can get someone into your camp that has those attributes and you can utilize that and you know that wrestler's going to look after you,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to only add to your game and it's going to help you more with your performance when it comes into competition.
Because we're speaking about camps, I want to know this from you. For a wrestler, for example, let's say you're going into a match. What is the timeline that you would start a camp for that particular match? Because I do see a lot of people starting camps uh, months before the matches. So, what's the exact timeline and how does it go? When does the camp generally start? for an average wrestler, normal wrestler?
I think wrestlers are a lot different to MMA athletes,
Mm-hmm.
where we have our seasons in
Mm.
wrestling. So usually the season can go anywhere from 8 to 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of wrestlers are trying to stay fit throughout the whole season.
Right.
And then you have some wrestlers that tend to splurge and enjoy their recovery time.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of my wrestlers that I coach, they're always in season.
Right.
They're always trying to get fit. They're always trying to get better because we're focused on the bigger picture in terms of making the Olympics, making world championships, making
Mm.
Commonwealth Games. And like we were talking about earlier in the beginning of this podcast, where Australia is behind a lot of these countries.
Right.
So we always have to be in season. We always have to try to figure out how can we get better
Mm-hmm.
and try to stay ahead of the pack, because if the moment we take some time off,
Yeah.
one session in Russia can be the equivalent to 5 to 10 sessions in Australia. So we have to always be on top with everything that we're doing in order to be able to get fit, to get strong, to get more technical. And obviously, you do taper down on your training. You do have some recovery time after the competition.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like we're usually still training throughout the entire time, even if we're
Interesting.
recovering, but at a more easier pace during the recovery stage.
Interesting. One thing, Justin, I'd like to know from you is everyone talks about motivation, but athletes know motivation is unreliable because discipline is something that I believe stays when motivation disappears. Because for an athlete, for example, you have a match coming up. It doesn't matter if you feel motivated today or not, but you have to do it end of the day, right? So do you reckon discipline is something that you teach your students no matter what? If you're motivated or not, you should be disciplined enough to do this thing every single day. It might be boring, but you have to do it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's that famous saying, right? Once motivation kicks over, that's where discipline kicks in,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? And I believe you personally need the both, but more so discipline than you do motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But the motivation can be from working towards a competition
Right.
or striving towards something,
Mm,
can be used as motivation. But the days that you feel like you don't want to train,
mm,
you just want to give up,
mm.
that's where discipline kicks in,
Yeah.
where you have to show up no matter what, even if you don't feel like it.
Mm,
And obviously, there's going to be some tough times on the road where you feel like, man, like I'm losing and having bad sessions
mm,
for the past like week, and I just feel like giving up.
mm.
But you do need that reminder or motivation to remind yourself, I'm doing this for a bigger purpose. I'm
Exactly.
running a marathon here, not a race.
Mm,
I'm looking to go to the Commonwealth Games. I'm looking to go to the Olympics. I want to be the next UFC champion.
mm.
So I just need to push it out
Right.
and stick to the path.
Right.
And that's what creates solid discipline, is showing up every day, day after day, time after time. And it's always just getting 1% better every single
Mm,
day. Like
mm.
some days you feel like you're taking 2 steps back,
Yeah.
but how can you take 3 to 4 steps forward afterwards?
Right. I also feel that this, what you've said, I would like to add on to that is the fact that no matter what sort of things you're doing, whether it's wrestling or any sort of domain that you are in, there are days obviously when you don't feel like doing certain things, you're not motivated enough. Obviously, you have to do that, but then the action you take on the days when you don't feel like doing those things will define what the end goal means to you. Because if it's something that you really want to pursue, you really want to push for it, like you were saying about the UFC, MMA, Olympics, if you want to really reach there, then there are days obviously you don't want to do certain things, you don't feel motivated enough. But then what sort of action you take on that day defines what that ultimate goal means to you.
100%. It kind of makes me think of when I speak to kids,
Yeah.
especially. It's, like when you're kids, you're having fun, but then you'll notice them starting to cut corners
Yeah.
and just try to figure out how can they put less work in
Mm-hmm.
and not having to grow as much because they're just cutting at corners. And I always use an example of two names. So let's say Stefan and David.
Yeah.
Stefan is a guy who cuts corners every single exercise, doesn't do the reps fully, and he also misses training sessions.
Right.
And then you have David, who actually shows up to every day. He puts in the work. He puts in more than that is actually required.
Okay.
And they both are going to be training for the next 5 years. Who is going to go further in their wrestling journey? Stefan or David?
Right.
And then the kids obviously say David.
David.
Okay, good. And I ask you this question: how can you be more like David in order to achieve a certain goal?
Right. Put in the work.
Put in the work. And that's where they all start to realize, and you see them from the next session or even in that session, they start putting in the work. They don't cut corners and they're focused on a certain purpose. And right now, my kids that they're preparing for is nationals.
Right.
So they're focused on not cutting corners, not taking days off, but staying disciplined to the sport towards nationals, because they know if they always show up and put in the work, they're going to get a good result, possibly place in the top 2 at nationals.
Interesting. Very interesting. One thing, because you train a lot of kids, because it's obviously quite difficult to keep them motivated and disciplined. What are certain things that you generally do when there are days when they don't feel motivated enough or they don't feel doing things? How do you train them on days when they're down?
It's kind of like being a father figure.
Mm-hmm.
You have to push them, even to the point sometimes it's hard for them and they don't want to show up and they just don't enjoy the work. You have to remind them that this is for a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to say it in a language they understand. Where you'll see some coaches make the mistake of speaking to the kids like an adult.
Right.
And they won't be able to understand and process certain words that you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can narrow down your language to, like, you're obviously speaking to a kid, which you are, and use terms that they do understand, and you give them a reason why we're doing this, they actually understand and they can relate and they're willing to put in the work.
Right.
And it's a matter of building a special bond with your students. When you can build that special bond, sometimes it's hard discipline where you have to be more aggressive with the way you speak to them in order for them to realign themselves into that right direction. Because if you don't, then you're going to lose that relationship and that respect they have for you as a coach, similar to like a father.
True.
And from there, if you can do that, that's what's going to help align them into that right direction. And when they grow up as adults, they're going to remember that. They're going to take that on and they're going to use that in their daily life, in their careers and whatever like they want to pursue in life.
Interesting. Very good thought process. Justin, tell me one thing. This is something I want to know for myself too, because I'm not aware how it works. Any wrestler or any kid that wants to go through a process, because you've done nationals, you've done different things, represented Australia. How does it work generally? What's the steps that you go through to reach that sort of a stage?
That's a good question. So usually you would be focusing on winning your local competitions first.
Okay.
Right? So that's a great way to boost your confidence and gain experience at the early stages of your journey. And from there, your next goal would be winning a state title. So from there, if you win a state title, that means you're the best in the state.
Right.
And that lines you up for the next goal, which is you want to win nationals.
Right. Where you're competing with people from different states.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So your goal is to become Australian champion. So especially more so when you're the age of 15 into adult years is more when it's crucial for you to be able to be selected to go to Oceanias.
Right.
Which is the next stage where you're versing a lot of the regions around Australia, like New Zealand, Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Palau, and the other countries. So if you can win or place top 2 in Oceanias, that's an instant ticket to go to World Championships.
Okay.
But usually I would recommend for athletes that are looking to pursue greatness in wrestling is not to go to World Championships first, is to compete regularly in an international competition. If it's a more intermediate level competition where they can first gain experience and also build confidence,
Right.
and then start building up to the next level of international competition, keep on working their way up until they are at that high level.
Okay.
And obviously attending these camps. And then as well, where you have like expert coaches, expert training partners from all different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, that's where it's going to set you up more for world championships.
Okay.
So you can actually go in there and do well, and you can actually win matches.
Right.
Where if you're just like training in the state and Australia, and then you went to Oceanias, and then you traveled to world championships, you're probably only going to go there for one match because the match is going to be done fairly quickly.
Right.
Because you won't have that much international experience.
Mm.
So you would have to compete internationally on a regular basis to gain that experience where a lot of the matches are super close.
Right.
And you have to dig deep to try and win those matches.
Mm.
And those tough matches is where you're going to gain the most experience from.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
Is you need to figure out, okay, how can I become a better wrestler? And it's usually through those tough matches, because like one competition can be equivalent of 5 to 6 months worth of training.
Right.
So if you can focus on building upon that,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to help you go back to training and work on certain things to evolve yourself as a wrestler.
Right. It's just that being in the international circuit gives you a taste of how it feels and gives you
Exactly.
more exposure. Obviously, that's what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
Interesting. Justin, adding on to that, just want to know if a wrestler wants to start up, if his aim is Olympics or MMA nationals, what's his age group that he should probably start?
If you want to make Olympics or World Championships, the best age would be anywhere from the age of 4 to about 15 would be a good age to start. More so, especially if you start the younger, the better.
Right.
Because you want to get it into your body early so it can form you can form your body into more like a wrestler. It's like a gymnast.
Right.
You see a lot of gymnasts being successful when they're young, and they are able to do certain things with their body that normal people can't do.
Right.
And that's developed at a young age.
Justin, if I want to ask you this, a lot of people do want success, right? Especially in this field, a lot of people do want to win championships, do want to win matches, but they don't want discomfort. What is your take on this? What do you say to them?
I would say you're in the wrong sport. But it just depends as well. Like if you're looking to create, like it's like anything really. If you want to be successful in anything, you need to put in the work, and
Right.
you have to realize there's no shortcuts. There's no secret sauce. It's all about who you surround yourself with, you putting in the work, and having goals to strive towards.
Right.
Because if you have those goals to strive towards, and you know that you're going to fail, you know you're going to be facing obstacles, that's where you have the right community to lift you up. If it's your coach, if it's your training partners, that right community can truly support you in your growth and your journey. And like, if you're not willing to do that and you're too scared to fail, or you want to live a more comfortable lifestyle, then you're going to truly struggle in the long run.
Right.
Because you rather get the hard work done as soon as possible and try to learn and fail as much as you can in order to learn. Because if you don't fail and you don't overcome certain obstacles, you're always going to struggle in a certain area in your life.
Yeah.
So I would recommend to learn how to overcome it. And it's not as scary as you think.
Right. It's just the putting in the foot forward. Just do it, and just if
Exactly.
you fail because you learn from the mistakes and
Exactly.
do the best thing. Look, because we're talking about these things, one thing I couldn't stop myself but asking is about MMA. This is something I follow myself personally. We do see a lot of great fighters in MMA, Khabib, GSP, or Volkanovski, a lot of fighters on that fight nights. But since you come up from that field of wrestlers and you know how it works, What is one thing that you see on the fight night that the normal people miss in general?
So I've had the privilege to meet GSP, Alex Volkanovski, Rob Whittaker, Mark Hunt, and a lot of other famous MMA fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And they put in so much work. It's crazy. Like a normal person would think, like, what is like up with this person? Why is he training so much? Is he going to injure himself? Is he going to burn himself out?
Yeah.
But you'll find they're the most humble, coachable people you ever meet because they're always asking the coaches how can they get better,
Right.
trying to figure out that how can they use that one thing, that 1%, and try to add another percent to it.
Right. Always trying to get better.
Exactly. Like I always say this example, especially having to train with Rob Whittaker, especially when we went to the sand dunes. Everyone was running the same track on the sand dunes.
Mm.
But what Rob did that was different, he created his own like path, his own footprints.
Right.
He followed the same footprints down and the same footprints up as he sprinted.
Mm.
And he was ending up leading the pack because he just had a rhythm to his training.
Right.
And you'll notice like their work ethic is second to none. Like a lot of them are doing 3 to 5 sessions a day
Right.
in order to do whatever it takes to become successful.
Mm.
Where let's say you might be primarily a striker,
Mm.
where Rob Whittaker was, he focused 4 to 5 days a week on wrestling
Mm.
in order to become a good wrestler, to be able to hold himself against Yoel Romero and other wrestlers he actually fought as well.
Right.
So a lot of work goes underneath the surface that a lot of athletes don't see, or even people in general don't see these athletes go through.
Mm.
And it's years of hard work,
Right.
years. Like people only see like the small outcome
Mm.
of the like results they get, but they don't see the process it took for them to get there,
Right.
which is one of the most amazing things for any MMA athletes. And when you see wrestlers, MMA athletes, jiu-jitsu athletes, when they're amongst each other,
Mm.
there's that mutual respect in
Right.
terms of all of them
Mm.
worked so hard in order to get there.
Right.
And there's a little bit of appreciation towards the other person.
Yeah.
And you
Because
can
they know where they've come from, what they've done to
exactly,
reach there.
exactly. And when it comes to fight night, that's just like the result of the work they put in,
Mm.
not just for that camp, but
Right.
in the years of preparation that they put into that fight night. And you can see it through the way they move with their techniques, their footwork, their speed, their power, or
Mm.
whatever that athlete is good at
Mm.
and what they rely on most.
Interesting. Because we've been speaking about MMA, Justin. One person I would like to talk to you about was Khabib. What do you think stands out more in Khabib? Is it technique, discipline, or do you think is it mindset?
It would have to be a lot to do on his technique and his mindset, his willingness to never give up.
Mm.
People from Dagestan are very tough
Right.
and strong. And from there, you can see it the way he moves, especially more so with his grappling.
Mm.
He knows how to position his body through good technique.
Right.
And he knows to apply the pressure through good technique
Okay.
and being able to be fit enough to apply that pressure as well and
Okay.
weighing his opponent down to fatigue them,
Mm-hmm.
which helps him in the fights where you can see a lot of the fighters he's fought end up wearing down over time
Right.
throughout the fight. And then from there, it's easy for him to get a submission or like just fatigue them throughout all the way into a decision.
Right.
And you just see his mindset, his work ethic is a lot different to other athletes. The way he approaches fights, his reason for wanting to win a fight is different as well, where you can see he lives a lifestyle where it's simple, but he's extremely dedicated to his craft
Right.
and what he does. Where I think the most successful fighters live the most simple lifestyles in
Mm.
terms of what they do in their day to day life
Mm-hmm.
in order to focus on doing the right things when it comes to their training and competing,
Right.
even with their like the things you don't see as well as probably the way he eats,
Mm.
like going to get that proper recovery that he needs.
Right.
And obviously, and where he trains as well, he was guided by some of the greatest coaches
Right.
and training partners that helped him get to where he is today.
Right. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Because when you were saying about things about him, I remembered one of the fights against Dustin Poirier where Dustin Poirier had him locked in right in front of his father. But then Khabib, I thought he would just tap in because he was locked in, but he didn't. He said that there was no way I was going to tap out in front of my father. So I feel that's the sort of mindset that is different from the other fighters, and the way he leads into a match probably is different. But it's good to know from a fighter, obviously a wrestler, having that
Yeah.
thought process of what it is. Justin, give me your input on this particular thing. I wanted to know this always. How important is it to have emotional control in combat sports?
Very important. And I feel that usually comes through like the right guidance with your coaches, hard training, like we spoke about before. And that keeps you in tune, keeps you humble, keeps you focused, and trying to focus on simplifying your life and not taking on too much responsibilities
Mm,
outside of your training and
right.
as an athlete, and being able to focus on simple things like journaling. Some people like meditating. If you're more religious, you'll be focusing a lot more on your praying as well. So a lot of athletes take different approaches in terms of emotional control.
Mm,
But for me, it would have to come from like a religious point of view, similar to Khabib,
mm,
and also your training, because your training keeps you in check
right.
and keeps you in control with everything that you're doing in terms of the lead up to the fight.
The fight, yeah.
And I think we spoke about another thing which helps a lot as well is the way you're able to control your breathing, not being offset from your opponent,
Mm,
where if they're trying to irritate you,
yeah.
how can you stay calm and collected
Mm,
and focus on your game plan and not try to get fixated on your opponent's game plan?
right.
So it's kind of like you look into it's like an art.
Yeah.
The moment you go into the other person's game plan,
Right.
you're going into a losing battle.
Absolutely.
But the more you can focus on executing your game plan and getting them to work into your rhythm or style,
Mm,
that's where you're going to be at an advantage
right.
and you're going to have more emotional control.
Mm,
So usually the person who's more offensive is the person that's always going to be more in control with their
mm,
emotions, where the person who is more defensive
right.
and reactive
Mm,
and not proactive is the person that loses emotional control.
mm,
You see anxiety starts to rush in. They panic and they lose their footwork. They lose the ability to execute the techniques properly
mm,
because they have that anxiety through
mm,
being more reactive because they're scared of their opponent,
mm,
because they're just waiting for that opponent's next move, trying to counter it or trying to attack right before their opponent attacks because they're working off a more reactive response rather than being proactive, where
right.
someone who is proactive is a lot more calm and collected. They're able to gather their thoughts, knowing how to break down an opponent if it's fatiguing them or misleading them into the wrong direction so you can
Mm,
execute the technique that they didn't see coming.
right.
So that usually comes through, you would see a lot more through a proactive fighter and a reactive fighter, and you'll see it in every fight.
Right.
In every wrestling match, there's always someone that's more proactive than the other. And
Mm,
usually the case is the person who is proactive
mm,
is usually the person who wins. But MMA in a sense, or even boxing, Muay Thai, you have the ability to knock out, so you can get lucky shots.
Right.
But in wrestling, you don't get that as often.
Mm.
It usually comes down to the more controlled or more technical wrestler
Right.
who is more proactive throughout the match.
Interesting. That's an interesting take because I also read this somewhere, Justin, where it says that people think the most dangerous wrestlers are the ones that are more aggressive, but it's the one that are calm under the pressure because people think that the scary thing about elite fighters is not their anger, it's their control. This is something I read in a book, so it was a very interesting thought I felt.
No, it is an interesting thought. And obviously, it is also true in a sense
Right.
because there are wrestlers out there that are extremely aggressive and they dominate,
Right.
right? And yeah, I could say the same with someone who's more composed as well.
Right.
They both work under pressure and they both can form diamonds under pressure.
Interesting. Oh, Justin, we've spoken a lot about different sort of things. This is a fun segment where we do a rapid fire round. So I'll be asking you questions
Mhm.
and you got to give quick fire answers to
Perfect.
see, I'll just see what's in your mind. So the first thing is discipline or motivation.
Discipline,
Okay. Talent or hard work.
hard work,
Okay. Wrestling or MMA.
wrestling,
Okay. Khabib or GSP.
Khabib,
Okay. Khabib or John Jones.
John Jones,
Interesting. Biggest lesson from wrestling.
never give up.
Okay. Hardest opponent, maybe another person or your own mind. What has it been till date? Something that's been an obstacle for you in your life, or probably any opponent, probably.
Getting out of my own way,
Okay. One habit you never skip.
never skip training,
Okay. One thing people waste too much time on, especially in the wrestling field.
being fixated on multiple things at once,
Okay. What does real confidence mean to you?
the ability to focus on your craft,
Okay. What does raw and real mean to you?
being authentic.
Okay, interesting. That's a good one because I guess you're one of the guests that's been so quick in answering the questions. Justin, one thing I'd love to know from you is before we close on this episode is you've done a lot of things over a period of time. If you could look back at things probably maybe 10 years back, is there one thing that you would change about how things have gone through in your life?
That's a very good question. And it's something that I reflect on time and time again. And there's times where you think you want to change things.
Mm,
But now when I look at it, I believe personally everything happens for a reason.
mm,
Like certain events in your life, certain obstacles
right,
that you struggled with, and you wish you didn't do certain things a way you did,
right,
and you hold a lot of regret to it.
mm,
But you also learn from it.
right,
You grow from it, and it helps you to become a better person that you need to be
mm,
over time. And it's not good to be fixated on trying to be someone who you wish you could have changed something in your life
mm,
where it's already the past
right,
and we can't change it. Time is something you never get back,
yeah,
but you can change what you do now and
and
in the
tomorrow,
future and
yeah,
tomorrow.
absolutely.
So focus on the now and focus on growing, which I'm trying to do. And I believe myself now through like wrestling and also getting married soon to
Mm,
be a husband.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Helped me rise to the occasion, gave me more purpose, more direction, and now it's set me on the right path that I need to be on.
Interesting, very good thought. Justin, last thing I would like you to definitely add on to the young people that are watching this podcast is someone that wants to be a wrestler and probably is not in the right frame of mind, wants to reach to a point where he feels that he's achieved things what he wants to. What would be the one thought or one advice that you would give to that person?
I like this saying, and it comes from more of a BJJ or even a judo perspective. The black belt is the white belt that never gave up.
Okay.
So if you just get started and you focus on staying on the path, no matter how hard things get, you're going to overcome these obstacles, especially if you surround yourself in the right environment where you're in a place where you feel like you're a part of something, like you're in a family where everyone is striving towards a certain similar goals to what you're looking to achieve. And I spoke about that 90% principle as well. You want to be around with people who have already accomplished the things that you want to accomplish, people that are on the same line as you, and a coach who is a mentor to show you how to get there. And that's going to help you so much along your journey. And everything else that comes along that journey is always a bonus.
Thank you so much. That was a very interesting thought to all the young people that are aspiring to be wrestlers or people who are struggling at this point of time in getting to where they want to get in. So, thank you so much, Justin. This conversation with Justin shows discipline is not just about sport, it's about life. It's about showing up when no one is watching. It's about losing and still coming back. It's about controlling your ego. It's about becoming strong without being hard. Real strength is not loud. Real strength is not glamorous. Real success is not instant. It's built quietly, day by day, rep by rep, choice by choice. Justin, thank you so much for this amazing episode because I felt it was quite a powerful episode we had about a lot of different aspects about wrestling, a lot of different aspects about the things that go behind the scenes in becoming a wrestler, all the struggles, all the sacrifices that the wrestlers do. So thank you so much for coming on to the show, and I feel you enjoyed the show. Coming on to this one, anything else you want to say about the show?
No, I just want to appreciate you for having me as your guest,
Yeah,
and I wish you the very best in your journey
yeah,
as a podcaster
yeah,
because it is a fun journey. You get to meet some of the most interesting people
yeah.
and you have great conversations with them. And it was great to be able to give different insights to people in order to help you along your journey. If you're a wrestler, an MMA fighter, you're a grappler, or someone that is interested in starting the journey in terms of your personal development.
Mm,
And I hope this podcast helps you along your journey and helps you get great success in your future. And I wish you all the very best and thank you.
thank you so much, Justin. So, if this episode connected with you, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments what does real discipline mean to you. Until next time, stay raw, stay real, and keep showing up.